All right, so welcome replay watchers. My name is Patrick, creator of All Day Ate Like a Shark, where I share my recipes on Japanese food, a little bit of indoor gardening tips, and some travel tips. If this is your first time here, consider subscribing. Today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making some somen, which are Japanese noodles. I have a couple bundles right here. We're going to be seasoning it with a dashi-based broth, which we're going to be making from scratch. We're going to throw on some green onions, some shiso leaves, which is also known as perilla in English, and some sesame seeds, and also some chicken that we're going to be seasoning in sake. So this is raw chicken here. I'm going to pound it with my rolling pin to tenderize it a little bit. But first, let me get my little welcome sign up. So there's that. And just wanted to show you the little title that I have, another title for the recipe that we're making today. Cold somen noodles, like I said, with shiso tomato and sake steamed chicken. So I have a couple cameras here to give you a couple different angles. So let me show you one camera. There's one angle, cutting board angle. There's a picture-in-picture angle, so you can see my face as I cut. And then just the regular angle. So this is my second time doing this live stream setup. Hopefully there won't be any issues today. If you have any questions or comments, let me know. The question of today is, what is your favorite noodle? Let me know in the comments below. And my favorite noodle, I have many. So I don't have just one. Somen is one of my favorites, especially for cold noodles. So I'm excited to share this with you. So first things first, I do have my recipe up on my site. If you want to take a look at that, it's alldayeat.com. I'm going to start some water here. I have just regular water. We're going to boil water so we can cook the noodles. As soon as the noodles finish cooking, we're going to strain them and put a little bit of ice over them to chill them really quickly. We're also going to be steaming the chicken in sake. So sake is rice wine. This is the brand that I use here, and I have 1/2 cup ready to go. So we're going to be doing a 1/2 cup of sake for about 1 pound of chicken. We're going to put in a couple dashes of salt, just regular salt. So that is ready to go. I'm going to pound this chicken, and then we're going to prepare all of the fixings for the noodles as well as the sauce. So the way that I pound my chicken, I don't know if you have a tenderizing mallet, but what I use is my rolling pin. I'm going to go ahead and close this bag up so it doesn't splatter. Raw chicken, splattering is no good. So all right, so this chicken is ready to go. It's a pretty nice flat piece right there. What we're gonna do is steam it. And let's see, we're gonna bring this just to a simmer, and then we're gonna cover it, steam it on one side for about 4 to 5 minutes, and then flip it over. Steam it for another 4 to 5 minutes until the chicken's cooked through. We're gonna take it out. You can save the chicken juices and the sake juice for additional flavor in the broth later on. Totally up to you, but I like to reuse it. So let's go ahead and put the chicken in. So you want to watch this closely. You don't want to overcook the chicken. So the sake actually has a couple different effects on the chicken. It helps to tenderize it for one thing, and it also helps to enhance the flavor. So that's why we're using it. And I'm just going to get a spatula so that's evenly distributed. And as soon as this starts to boil, we are going to turn down the heat and simmer it. And we'll flip it over about halfway through. So we'll let that go up in temperature. So meanwhile, we're going to be cooking the somen noodles. So these are dried noodles, 1 bundle per person. And let's see, go ahead and chop the green onions. We'll make some space on the cutting board. I have cherry tomatoes here. You can use whatever kind of tomatoes you want. Cherries are one of my favorites. They're very sweet and they're pretty small, so it's a good match for what we're making today. So I have one bunch of green onions here. Let me go ahead and switch the camera so you can see the picture-in-picture. Let me just double check that the stream is working. Ha! I love noodles too. Okay. So, my other favorite cold noodle is called hiyashi-chuka. If you've never heard of that before, it's a Chinese style cold noodle. So they're similar to ramen noodles, but you serve it with usually it's like a ponzu sauce, so it's like a lemon soy based sauce, and you serve it with ham, cucumber, and tomato. So that's another tasty summer dish. Maybe I will share that in the future. Not sure why I missed those chat messages. Okay, so just give that a few more minutes and it should be just about done. Green onions, you're just going to chop these coarsely. And then once we get to the shiso, or the perilla, we're going to slice that into long strips. Okay. Here's all of my green onions. And one other thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be toasting some sesame seeds. So this is about 1.5 tablespoons. I'm just going to turn on the heat here. Want to watch those closely so they don't burn. Next thing that we're going to do is cut up the shiso leaves. So this is about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 shiso leaves. You can cut off the stem unless you want to eat it. It's up to you. And we're going to cut these about 1/4 inch thick in slices. So I'm going to cut it in half and cut it in half. Actually, I'm just going to slice it. All right, so this is the shiso ready to go. Here's a close-up. Smells delicious. So the next thing that we're going to do is cut up the tomatoes. So this is about 2 cups worth of cherry tomatoes. We're just going to slice them in half. And keep an eye on the sesame seeds. Turn down the heat on the chicken. It should be done in about a minute or so if it's not already done. So back to the tomatoes. So this, as you can see, it's a pretty quick recipe. It's pretty straightforward. Just got to chop up a few things, mix up the sauce, cook the noodles and chill them, and then you have your meal ready to go. Ooh. Lost the tomato there. So usually somen noodles are served with mensuyu, maybe like a little bit of grated ginger, maybe some nori or dried seaweed. So this is a little bit of a unique spin on that traditional way of serving it, so that's why I thought I would share it with you. Not sure why the chat messages aren't showing up here. Okay. That's why. Nobody said anything. Okay, tomatoes are ready. So next thing that we're going to do is grate the ginger. I'm going to use about 2 teaspoons worth. This is actually frozen, or it's thawed a little bit. So I'm going to cut off the tip And then we're going to skin, see if we can skin some of this. And the ginger really helps to add complexity to the mix. If you don't like ginger, you can omit it. But I like ginger, and so that's why I'm adding it. So while you guys are here, I did want to ask you, I have been thinking about starting a separate YouTube channel for travel. Do you think I should do that, or are you interested in hearing about travel on this channel? Let me know in the comments below. And I'm also working on a travel book on how to use points to travel, as well as a Japanese cookbook. So I expect to have that out no later than, I don't know, July is my target date. So be on the lookout for that too. Okay, turning off the heat for the chicken. I'm going to double check to see if it's cooked. All right, sesame seeds are done. Uh-oh. Looks like they burned just a little bit, but I think they should be okay still. Chicken looks like it's about done. I'm just going to leave it in there for a second. Okay, so we're going to grate some ginger, like I said, about 2 teaspoons worth. And then we're going to go ahead and mix this sauce. So I'm just using a microplane. If you have a grate, you can do that also. Okay, so a little bit more. Okay, so that's about 2 teaspoons worth. So what I have here, this is a 1/2 cup of low sodium soy sauce, a 1/2 cup of mirin, and then we're going to use dashi. So I have some dashi stock here that I cooked earlier. Oops. So this is about 2 cups. I just used the powder stuff, so it's nothing fancy. We're going to need 3/4 cup of dashi, so that's how much I'm going to put into the Pyrex here, and we're going to mix everything together. So since this is supposed to be a cold dish, ideally you would chill everything. So here's the dashi. It's I think it's a little bit warm still. Soy sauce is cold, so that'll bring down the temperature a little bit. And then we have the mirin here, which is also cold. And we're going to add in about 2 tablespoons worth of sesame oil. And let me take out the chicken here. Chicken's done. So we'll set that chicken aside and let it cool for a bit. And I like to save this juice. So this is the sake chicken juice. It has a lot of flavor still. And I add it to the broth that we just made, and that helps to enhance the chicken flavor. So just make sure to evaporate all of the alcohol smell. So I think there's just a little bit here, so I'll let this simmer and reduce a little bit so that all of the alcohol goes away. Okay, so my water is just about boiling. I'm going to go ahead and put in both of these bundles of somen, let them cook. I want to watch it closely because the water boils over, so make sure to stir it or turn down the heat. So this package says to cook for about 5 minutes. So depending on the brand that you're using. It should be around, I guess, 4 to 6 minutes, 5 minutes in my case. You don't want to overcook your somen noodles because then they'll get mushy. So let's go ahead and combine the ginger, grated ginger, into the sauce that we just made. So like I said, this is about 2 teaspoons worth, so it's a pretty good amount. I'm going to go ahead and stir that up. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to tear up, you can either cut or tear apart the chicken. I like to tear it apart so there's a little bit more texture and it holds on to the sauce a little bit better. So let's go ahead and get this on here. Of course, you want to wait till it cools. You don't want to burn yourself since we just took it out of the hot pan. So I'll just set that there for a little bit. Okay, so we have our onions, we have our shiso and tomatoes. Chicken's just about done. We have some sesame seeds, and we have a bowl. So the next thing that we have to do is strain the somen noodles, and we're going to do that with a bed of ice on top, running cold water, and that helps to really cool the noodles down quickly. So I'm going to grab some ice. So if your freezer gives you the option, I like to use crushed ice as opposed to ice cubes because there's more surface area. All those little bits of ice help to cool the noodles a lot quicker. So just a tip. I'm going to go ahead and switch this back. So there's the regular view. Let me know what you guys think if you like this setup with the different viewing angles. I thought it would be helpful, especially if I'm doing something on the cutting board, which you can't see too well if the camera's far away. So I forgot to take a look at the time, so I'm going to just taste it and see if these are ready. Nope, it needs a couple more minutes. I'm going to turn off the heat for the sake chicken sauce. It smells like sake and a little bit of chicken. So this is probably maybe just under a half cup, so not too much of it evaporated. But sake is not a high proof alcohol, so I wouldn't expect it to decrease that much. I grab a strainer. I'll just use this strainer. And I think that's about it. So I did want to give you a little surprise, I guess, sneak peek for next week. One of the things that I was going to do was kasuzuke. So if you've never heard of kasuzuke before, it's using sake lace, which is like the leftover materials used in sake production. And I seasoned some fish with that. So in this case, I used buri, which is yellowtail. It's a fatty fish. It tends to have a stronger flavor. The way that you would want to use kasuzuke is for other types of fatty fish, like either black cod or salmon, if you can get that. Those are 2 of my other favorite ways to eat kasuzuke, and it tastes really good. So if you like misozuke, or misoyaki, which is what I made last week, this is another type of marinade. You basically do it the same way, but the marination duration is longer. Usually you do it for at least 3 to 5 days. And the flavor is very different. So it's more delicate. Miso is a little bit sweeter and savory, depending on how much sugar you add. And the kasuzuke is a lot more savory. And they usually sell the kasuzuke or the kasu by itself. So you have to combine it with sugar, mirin, sake, sometimes miso, depending on the recipe. And you mix that all together, and then you salt the fish like we did before to get out that fishy flavor for about 30 minutes. You wipe off excess salt and then you marinate it for 3 to 5 days. So I think this is done. It's not something that you see in restaurants. I haven't seen it in a restaurant in the US, but you might see it in Japan. Okay, so that's done. I'm going to go ahead and drain it. All right, super hot, right? So we're going to take these ice cubes, the crushed ice cubes, and put it over. And I'm just going to run cold water on it, and that'll help to cool it really quickly. I don't know if you guys know of a faster way to cool your noodles, let me know, because this is how I always do it. All right, so since we did 2 bundles, I need a little bit more ice. I'm going to grab some ice, and we'll tear up the chicken, throw the noodles into the bowl, top it off with the toppings, and then I don't know why I'm grabbing the sauce. What was I going to grab? My ice container. That's right. The things that happen. It's hard to do stuff and talk at the same time. All right, so my noodles are nice and cold. I know it's not hot yet, at least in California, but it's gonna get hot this summer, and this will be super refreshing to eat on those hot days. So after I rinse it, I always squeeze or put pressure on the noodles to get out excess water, because you don't want it to dilute your sauce. So you'll see I'm just pushing on it and excess water is coming out. Okay, so noodles are done. Let's go ahead and put about a bunch. It's roughly half. Let me share the other screen so you can see it. So here's how it looks. Gonna go ahead and tear apart the chicken. I think it's cooled off a bit. So I usually do about 1/4 pound per person. I think that's plenty of meat. So I'm just tearing it into little bite-sized bits. I'm gonna go ahead and make this a little bit nicer so I can take some pictures later on. Okay, so a little bit more chicken. This is roughly maybe just a little bit over a 1/2 cup's worth. Okay, so there's the chicken. Gonna throw on the tomatoes next. So today, what I'm doing right now is I'm just layering it, but you can mix it up if you want. That's what I'm gonna do when I eat it. But for the pictures, I need to keep it nice and tidy. Throw on some green onions. Some nice colorful salad. Green and red are complementary, right? All right, and then the shiso. I love shiso, so I use a lot of it. Put on a little bit more chicken. All right, so that's essentially it. What I'm going to do now is just top it with the sauce. And just stir this up again. Make sure to stir it because the sesame oil that you put in, it settles at the top. So you want to make sure that you get a good mix before you add it. Oh yeah, it smells delicious. Sesame seeds. Yeah. All right. So this is my cold somen noodle recipe with shiso tomatoes, sake steamed chicken, and homemade mentsuyu. So let's go ahead and have a taste. Just try the chicken first. Delicious. Just the way that I remember. So good. And yes, it is okay to slurp. If you didn't know, slurping is polite when you're eating noodles in Japan. So don't be offended just because I did it right now. I did not intend to offend you. All right, guys, so this concludes our live cooking show for today. It looks like it went pretty smoothly, so I'm happy about that. If you have any questions or comments, make sure to leave them below. If this is your first time here, consider subscribing. I will be continuing to post live cooking videos each Wednesday for the next few weeks for Season 2, Summer 2018, Japanese Live Cooking. I'm working also on an ebook for Japanese cooking as well as a travel book on how to travel with points and miles, so stay tuned for news on that. Other than that, I think that's going to be it for today, so I hope you get a chance to try this. I hope I demonstrated that it's pretty easy to make. Tastes delicious. It's a great meal for the summertime now that tomatoes are in season, and I think that's going to be it. So thanks again for watching. Oh yeah, I almost forgot.